When Ethan first arrived at the Galactic Exchange dormitory, he felt both excited and scared. It was his first time living outside Earth, surrounded by species he had only seen in documentaries. The hallways glowed with soft blue lights, and the air smelled faintly of metal and strange flowers. Aliens of every color and size walked past him, some floating, some covered in fur, others with eyes that blinked sideways. It was a new world, literally. He kept telling himself, "Don't mess this up, Ethan, just act normal." His dorm assignment blinked on the datapad, room 412, shared quarters, Valari species. He didn't know what a Valari was. Maybe it had tentacles. Maybe it didn't breathe oxygen. He took a deep breath and walked in. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and the moment he stepped inside, he froze. There she was, tall, graceful, and almost shining. Her skin was a soft silver tone, smooth like glass, and her hair, or whatever it was, flowed like liquid light. Her eyes glimmered gold and blue at the same time. She stood by the window, watching the planet's rings glow in the distance. When she turned toward him, Ethan felt like he was standing in front of something out of a dream. "You must be human, Ethan," she said. Her voice had a calm rhythm like music underwater. He blinked, then laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, that's me. You must be, Valari?"
"I am Zira of the Valari Collective," she replied, bowing her head slightly.
"It is good to share quarters with a human. I have studied your kind." Ethan put down his bag, still staring like a fool. "You've studied us?" "Yes," she said with a faint smile. "Your people are unpredictable yet deeply emotional. Many in the galaxy admire that. You carry warmth even when afraid." Ethan chuckled nervously. "Yeah, that's one way to say we panic a lot." Her expression didn't change much, but her eyes sparkled like she was smiling on the inside. "You may find me strange, human Ethan, but I hope we can coexist peacefully." "Ethan is fine," he said, waving his hand. "And yeah, I think we'll get along." He walked around the room. It was cleaner and brighter than any dorm he'd seen before. A large desk with floating screens, a small cooking pod, and a bed. Wait, he stopped. There was only one bed, a single, wide, soft-looking bed in the center of the room, glowing faintly with what looked like temperature control crystals. Ethan blinked twice. Is this a mistake?" Zira tilted her head. "Mistake? There's only one bed," he said, pointing. "Like one. For two people." She looked at him, puzzled. "Yes, that is correct," he frowned. "No, I mean, we need two. You know, one for you, one for me." Zira blinked slowly. "Why would we need two?" Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. "Because we're not. Because that's just not. Humans don't." He rubbed his face, trying to find words. "We don't sleep with strangers." Zira's brow furrowed, her tone calm but curious. "In Valari culture, shared sleep promotes emotional stability and warmth. It is common for unrelated beings to rest together. It keeps the heart steady." Ethan groaned quietly. "Yeah, on Earth, that's definitely not common." She walked closer, her voice gentle. "Do you not wish to be comfortable? The bed adjusts to your body temperature. You will not even feel my presence." "That's not the problem," he said quickly, stepping back slightly. Zira studied him for a moment, then nodded thoughtfully. "You humans value distance, I understand." She began to arrange her things quietly, moving with calm grace. But Ethan noticed something. Her posture changed slightly, a faint sadness behind her composure. He felt guilty. Maybe he'd just offended her entire culture. He sighed, rubbing his neck. "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. It's just new to me." Zira turned, her golden blue eyes soft. "You're not rude, Ethan, only cautious. That is also warmth in its own way." Her words made his chest tighten. There was something honest, almost comforting about the way she spoke. He smiled awkwardly. "All right, fine. We'll figure something out. Maybe I'll take the floor for tonight." Zira shook her head. "That would be dishonorable to a guest. You will sleep on the bed. I will adjust my side." Before he could argue, she pressed a small panel and the mattress softly divided into two temperature zones. There, separate yet together. "Is that acceptable?" Ethan stared for a moment, then chuckled. "Yeah, that's actually pretty smart." Zira smiled faintly and sat down, folding her silver hands in her lap. "Good. Then we rest." As the lights dimmed, Ethan lay down carefully, keeping to the far edge of his side. Zira closed her eyes, her breathing slow and calm. The room filled with a soft hum from the ship outside. And though Ethan had sworn this was going to be weird, Somehow it didn't feel that way anymore. For the first time since leaving Earth, he didn't feel alone. The next few nights were awkward for Ethan. No matter how much Zira told him that sharing a bed was normal, he couldn't get used to the idea. Every time the lights dimmed and silence filled the room, his mind went into overdrive. She's right there, he'd think, lying stiff as a board. An alien, a real alien. And I'm supposed to sleep next to her like this is no big deal? But for Zira, it really wasn't a big deal. She treated the whole thing like it was the most natural thing in the universe. Every night, she'd calmly take her spot on the bed, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dark, her breathing slow and steady. On the third night, Ethan finally spoke up. "You're really not bothered by this, are you?" She turned her head slightly, eyes half open. "Why would I be?" He laughed nervously. "I don't know, humans. We have this thing called personal space." Zira tilted her head, her soft golden blue eyes curious. "Space? You live among stars." "You already have much of that," Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, not that kind of space. I mean like distance between people. We don't usually sleep this close unless we're, close. "Ah," Zira said softly, understanding dawning. "You mean emotionally bound? Love, affection, or trust?" He nodded, feeling his face grow warm. "Exactly," Zira gave a small, kind smile. "Then this will help build that. The Valari believe that when two beings share rest, their emotional rhythms start to align. It is how we learn peace." Her calm tone made it sound almost spiritual. Ethan didn't have an answer. He just sighed and rolled onto his side, trying not to think about it. After a while, he noticed something. Zira's skin gave off warmth, soft and steady, like sunlight under a blanket. The gentle hum of her breathing was oddly peaceful. The ship's night cycle lights dimmed, turning the room into a bluish twilight. Maybe it was his imagination, but he swore he could feel her heartbeat, not through touch, but like a faint rhythm in the air, steady, slow, safe. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan slept without tossing or turning. The next morning, he woke up before her. Zira still lay beside him, calm and silent, her face relaxed. Without the glow of her skin, she almost looked human, just a little too perfect, a little too still. Ethan stretched quietly, glancing at her. "You really don't move when you sleep, huh?" Without opening her eyes, she said softly. Valari entered deep stasis. "It is restful. You, however, move like you are running from something." He froze. You noticed that?" Her eyes opened slowly, golden and bright. "Yes, your breathing changes. You fight in your dreams." Ethan turned his gaze to the ceiling. "Yeah, old memories. I used to be in the Mars conflict. Not easy to forget." Zira nodded slowly. "The scars of the mind are deeper than those on skin. But when two beings share rest, fear fades." He raised an eyebrow. "You really believe that?" She smiled faintly. "I do not believe. I have felt it. In Valari culture, our young sleep together in circles. No one dreams alone." Something about her words hit deep in his chest. No one dreams alone. That line stuck with him the entire day. As the week went on, the awkwardness began to fade. Ethan found himself relaxing around her. They ate meals together, shared stories, and even laughed at each other's strange customs. Zira tried coffee for the first time and made the funniest face Ethan had ever seen. He nearly spilled his drink laughing. By the time night came again, he didn't hesitate to lie down beside her. That night, something different happened. He dreamed again, fire, chaos, the sounds of battle, but this time, when the fear rose, a soft voice echoed in his mind. "Peace. Human Ethan, you are safe." A light spread through the dream, silver, warm, gentle. It touched every corner of the darkness until the fear melted away. He woke up sweating but calm. Zira was already awake, watching him quietly. "You felt it too, didn't you?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Your fear was loud, but it is quieter now." Ethan swallowed hard. How did you do that?" Zira smiled faintly. "We are sharing rest. It is natural." He stared at her for a moment, unsure whether to be amazed or terrified. "Across the galaxy," she continued softly. "Sleeping close is not just for comfort. It is a promise to protect one another while the mind wanders." Ethan didn't reply. He just looked at her, realizing that maybe this strange custom wasn't so strange after all. He lay back down slowly. The silver glow returned, wrapping the room in warmth. And that night, for the first time since the war, Ethan slept without fear of the dark. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, Ethan's life began to change in quiet ways he didn't fully understand. Living with Zira had started as a strange accident, a cultural misunderstanding between two very different beings. But now her presence felt grounding, like an anchor in the endless black of space. Every night after the dorm lights dimmed and the ship's hum became a soft whisper, they would lie down side by side. Zira's breathing had a rhythm to it, steady, calm, and almost musical. Sometimes she would hum softly, a tune that sounded like starlight and rain mixed together. Ethan didn't know what language it was, but it always made his chest feel warm. One night, after a long day of classes and interspecies training, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay there staring at the ceiling, thoughts racing through his mind. His past kept clawing its way back, the Mars conflict, the screaming, the loss of friends. He had joined the exchange program to escape that life, but the memories followed him like shadows. Zira shifted slightly beside him. "You are not resting," she said in her soft, melodic tone. He turned his head toward her. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." "You did not," she replied gently. "Your mind is loud tonight." He let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, you could say that. It's just memories, things I can't seem to forget." Zira turned on her side, her golden blue eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You dream of battle," she said softly. "I have seen it in your movements." Ethan nodded, staring at his hands. "Yeah, I fought in the war on Mars. We thought we were saving people, but all I remember now is loss. Every night I see it again. The fire, the sound, the smell." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Zira spoke quietly. "On Velari, when someone is haunted by memories, we do not let them face the night alone. We share warmth until the fear fades." He smiled faintly. "You already do that." "Not enough," she said. "You still tremble in your sleep." He looked at her, a little embarrassed. "You notice that?" "I feel it," she said simply. "Our bodies share energy when we rest. Your storms reach me." Ethan didn't fully understand her words, but something in her voice felt sincere. Real. Zira extended her hand slightly across the bed, stopping halfway between them. "Let me help," he hesitated. Physical contact still felt strange, but something deep inside him wanted to trust her. Slowly, he reached out and placed his hand in hers. Her skin was smooth, warm, almost like touching sunlight. Instantly, his chest felt lighter. The restless energy inside him calmed, just a little. "You see?" Zira whispered. "Your heart slows. The fear loses its teeth." Ethan took a deep breath. "You really believe this works?" "I do not believe," she replied softly. "I know." They lay like that for a while, hands gently connected, silence stretching comfortably between them. The stars outside their window moved slowly across the black sky, and Ethan realized something. He hadn't felt this peaceful in years. When he finally drifted into sleep, he dreamed again of Mars. But this time the scene was different. The smoke was still there, the cries, the chaos, but in the middle of it a soft light shone. Silver bright, warm, Zira's light. It spread through the darkness, chasing away the fear. He could hear her voice faintly saying, "You are safe. You are not alone anymore." He woke up hours later with tears on his cheeks, but not the painful kind. Zira was already awake, sitting up beside him, her eyes calm and kind. "You rested well," she said. He nodded slowly, still feeling the echo of her presence in his chest. "Yeah, I think I actually did." Zira tilted her head slightly. "Then it is working." Ethan smiled weakly. "You're like my personal therapist, you know that?" She blinked in confusion. "Therapist? Someone who helps you heal your mind," her expression softened. "Then I'm honored." Ethan looked at her for a long time, unsure how to explain what he felt. Gratitude, trust, and something deeper, something he didn't want to name yet. That night changed everything. The nightmares didn't vanish completely, but they lost their power, and each night afterward, when he closed his eyes beside Zira, he didn't feel like he was falling anymore. He felt like he was home. Time passed quietly in the galactic dormitory. Days blurred into nights, and the strange, uncomfortable beginning between Ethan and Zira slowly turned into something else. Something peaceful, gentle, and full of meaning neither of them dared to name. Ethan no longer flinched when the lights dimmed. The single bed that once felt awkward now felt familiar, even comforting. It was no longer her side and his side, just their space. The warmth they shared seemed to calm both of them in ways words never could. Each night became a small ritual. After dinner, Zira would brew her favorite drink, something made from glowing petals that smelled like mint and soft rain. She'd pour it into 2 small cups and they'd sit by the window, watching stars move slowly across the black ocean of space. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. Sometimes they shared stories about their worlds. Zira spoke of Vehlari, her home where the sky shimmered like liquid gold and the trees sang when the wind passed through. Her people didn't use words for love or loneliness because, to them, those things didn't need names. Every Vehlari grew up surrounded by others. They slept, worked, and dreamed together. No one was ever left behind. Ethan listened with quiet awe. "That sounds perfect," he said softly one night. "Back on Earth, people feel lonely even when surrounded by others." Zira turned to him, her eyes glowing gently. "That is why your kind is precious," she said. "You feel deeply even when it hurts. You fight to find warmth even in the cold. It is a strength." Her words touched something inside him. For so long he had thought his emotions were weaknesses, the nightmares, the pain, the need for connection. But when Zira spoke, they sounded like something beautiful. One night, Ethan shared a story too. He told her about the time before the war, when he used to fix old hover bikes with his brother. They would race through the desert at sunset, the red sand glowing like fire beneath them. He smiled while telling it, but Zira noticed the sadness in his voice. "What happened to your brother?" she asked gently. Ethan's smile faded. "He didn't make it through the war." Zira reached out slowly, placing her cool silver hand over his. "I am sorry," she said simply. He nodded, unable to speak for a moment. "You know, I never talked about him before. It's weird, I can't even talk about this stuff with humans. But with you, it's easier. Because I listen without fear," she said. "Among my people, to share pain is an act of trust. When we rest beside another, their memories whisper to us. I have felt your sadness before your words." Ethan blinked, startled. "You can feel my memories?" "Not exactly," Zira replied softly. "More like echoes of emotion. When you dream, your heart speaks louder than your voice." He didn't know what to say. For a while they sat in silence, their hands still together. The stars outside glowed like distant lanterns, silent witnesses to their growing bond. Later that night, as they lay side by side, Zira whispered, "On Vehlari, it is said that when 2 beings rest together long enough, their dreams begin to merge." Ethan chuckled softly. "Dreams merging, huh? Sounds poetic?" She smiled faintly. "It is more than poetry. It is truth. Your dreams have already changed, have they not?" He froze. She was right. His nightmares had faded. And when he did dream now, there were flashes of light. Silver skies, golden fields, voices that weren't human but kind and warm. Her world, her. "Maybe they have," he said quietly. "But if I'm dreaming your dreams, you might be stuck with some bad ones too." Zira laughed softly, the sound light and melodic. "I do not mind, Ethan. Even your pain is honest. It reminds me that you live fully." Her words hit deeper than he expected. He turned his head to look at her, her glowing eyes soft in the dim light. "You really think humans are worth all this?" "We're not exactly a peaceful species," Zira smiled. "You are not peaceful, but you are alive in every sense. You make chaos beautiful. That is something no other species can do." Ethan couldn't help but smile. "You know, for someone from across the galaxy, you're starting to sound very human." She tilted her head slightly. "And you are starting to sound very Vehlari." They both laughed quietly, their voices blending into the soft hum of the ship. The warmth between them was no longer strange, it was something sacred. That night, when sleep came, it was deeper than ever before. And for the first time, Ethan's dream didn't take place on a battlefield or a ruined city. He dreamed of walking beneath Vehlari's golden skies beside Zira. Hand in hand, the air filled with peace. When he woke up, Zira was already awake, watching him with a small, knowing smile. "You dreamed of my home," she said softly. He smiled back. "Yeah, and I think I liked it there." Zira's voice was quiet but full of warmth. "Then perhaps one day you will see it, not in dreams but with open eyes." Ethan didn't answer, but his heart already knew. Something had changed between them, something quiet, wordless, and deeply real. The peace between Ethan and Zira continued to grow, quiet and beautiful like light breaking through dark clouds. But peace never lasts forever. Sometimes the universe tests even the strongest bonds, and for them that test came suddenly. It happened one morning. The Galactic Dormitory had a surprise inspection. Ethan and Zira were still in their room, the morning light from the planet's rings shining through the glass window. Ethan had just made coffee, while Zira sat cross-legged on the bed reading a digital scroll that glowed softly in her hands. Everything felt normal until the door hissed open without warning. A tall, stern-looking supervisor walked in, his uniform crisp and his expression hard. He stopped the moment he saw them. His gaze flicked from Zira to Ethan, and then to the single bed. His eyes widened. "Cadet Ethan, what is the meaning of this?" Ethan froze mid-sip. Good morning. This is not appropriate living behavior," the supervisor barked. "One bed? For two residents of different species? Do you realize the kind of message this sends?" Zira looked up calmly, her voice composed as ever. "There is no message. This is standard Velari custom. We share rest to build trust and mental harmony." The supervisor frowned deeply. "Be that as it may, this is not standard human behavior. Regulations clearly state that interspecies cohabitation must maintain physical boundaries." Ethan stood quickly. "Hey sir, with all due respect, it's not what it looks like." "Oh really?" the man snapped. "Then explain it, cadet." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, his face heating up. "Look, Zira's species believes in shared rest. It's part of her culture. It's not anything weird. It's just how she lives. And honestly," he hesitated, glancing at Zira, "it's helped me. A lot." The supervisor's expression softened slightly, but only for a moment. "Be that as it may, perception matters. The academy is built on discipline, not emotional comfort. Separate arrangements will be made immediately." Zira's golden blue eyes dimmed a little, like starlight fading behind a cloud. "Do you believe our peace is undisciplined?" she asked quietly. The man hesitated. "It's not about belief. It's about order." Then he left, the door hissing shut behind him, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Ethan sighed and sank onto the bed. "Well, that went great." Zira sat still, her gaze lowered. "I have caused you trouble," she said softly. "What?" "No, it's not your fault." "It is," she whispered. "Your people think poorly of what is natural to mine. I did not mean to bring you shame." Ethan looked at her, his chest tightening. "Zira, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. You've helped me more than anyone ever has. If they can't understand that, it's their problem, not yours." She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "You would defy your own rules for me?" He smiled sadly. "For you?" "Yeah, I would." Something flickered in her eyes then, a warmth he hadn't seen before, soft and bright. But she didn't speak. That night the dorm felt colder. Even though they still shared the same bed, the air was heavy with unspoken worry. Zira lay on her side facing the window, her glow dimmer than usual. Ethan couldn't stand it. He turned toward her. "Hey, are you mad at me?" She shook her head gently. "No, Ethan, I am sad. Not for myself, but for how your world fears connection. You build walls around hearts and call it safety." Her words hit him hard. He knew she was right. Humans did fear closeness. They hid behind formality, behind distance. He had done the same for years. But now, with Zira beside him, he realized how much warmth he had been missing. He sighed. "Maybe my people are scared of being hurt again. We've had too many wars, too much loss, so we keep everyone at arm's length." Zira turned her head slightly, her eyes soft in the dark. "Then I will stay closer until you remember what peace feels like." Ethan swallowed hard. "They might separate us, Zira." Her voice grew firm. "Let them try. I will tell them that I made a vow to protect your life and your rest. Among my kind, that promise cannot be broken." He smiled weakly. "A vow, huh?" "Yes," she said. "You are under my care now, human Ethan, and I do not abandon those I rest beside." Her tone was calm, but her words carried weight like a promise carved in stone. Ethan lay back, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Despite the threat hanging over them, a strange calm washed over him. "Zira?" he murmured. "Yes? I'm glad I met you." She smiled faintly, her glow warming again. "And I'm glad you did not choose the floor." He laughed softly, and she joined him. The tension melted away for the moment, replaced by something quiet and real. That night, when Ethan fell asleep, his dreams were peaceful again. But somewhere in the distance of that dream, he saw something new. Two figures standing side by side against a storm. And he knew, deep down, that the storm was coming soon. The warning sirens came in the middle of the night. Ethan woke up to a sharp red glow flashing across the ceiling, followed by the deep metallic voice of the station's AI. Warning. Hull breach detected. Sector 4 compromised. Evacuate immediately. Zira was already awake, her golden eyes wide with focus. She sat up quickly, her skin shimmering faintly in alarm. "Ethan, we must leave now." Ethan stumbled to his feet, his heart pounding. "What the hell happened?" She didn't answer, already pulling him by the arm. The air was thick with smoke and the distant roar of collapsing metal. Outside the dorm, chaos reigned. Cadets running, alarms blaring, the cold hiss of pressurized air escaping through ruptured vents. Zira guided him through the smoke with firm precision. "This way," she said, her voice steady despite the noise. "The escape corridor is still stable." They reached a junction, but the path was blocked by a fallen beam. Fire flickered at the far end of the hall. Ethan coughed, covering his mouth with his sleeve. "We can't get through!" Zira stepped forward, her tall figure outlined by firelight. "Stay back." Her skin began to glow brighter, threads of pale energy weaving beneath her surface. She placed her hands on the burning beam, and to Ethan's shock, the metal began to bend. The air shimmered with heat, but she didn't move away. Sparks burst against her skin, and she only gritted her teeth. "Zira, stop. You'll burn yourself," he shouted. Her voice came strained but determined. "Valari, endure." "Move now." The beam groaned and lifted just enough for Ethan to crawl through. When he turned, Zira was still pushing against it, her body trembling from the effort. He reached back, grabbing her arm. "Come on, I'm not leaving you!" Together they stumbled through the gap as the beam crashed down behind them with a heavy clang. The corridor ahead was dark and cold, emergency lights flickering weakly. Zira leaned against the wall, her glow dimming. "You are safe," she said softly. Ethan looked at her hands, scorched and trembling. "You're not," she shook her head. "Pain is temporary. You live, so my vow remains true." He clenched his jaw, his chest aching at her words. "Zira, you don't have to risk your life for me." Her golden eyes met his. "Yes, I do. You are under my protection. That is our bond." For a moment he wanted to argue, to tell her that he was just human, just a friend, not someone worth dying for. But when he saw the sincerity in her gaze, the words froze in his throat. They kept moving. The floor trembled beneath them as the distant sound of explosions echoed through the corridors. The smell of burning circuits filled the air. Finally, they reached the lower hangar where the escape pods were. A few cadets were already inside, panicked and shouting. One officer waved at them. "Hurry! This pod's leaving in 30 seconds. Ethan ran for it, pulling Zira along. But as they neared, a second explosion rocked the chamber. The blast threw them both to the floor. Metal debris fell everywhere, and the escape pod's hatch slammed shut automatically. It launched before Ethan could even reach it. "Wait!" he yelled, but it was gone, disappearing into the dark void outside. Zira sat up beside him, her breathing heavy. "We are cut off," she said, scanning the wreckage. "There is one more pod on the upper level." They started climbing the emergency ladder, the metal shaking beneath their feet. Smoke swirled around them, the sound of tearing steel echoing through the air. When they reached the final platform, the last pod stood ready. But its system was damaged, red lights blinking across the console. Ethan cursed under his breath. "It's not starting." Zira stepped forward, placing her hand on the control panel. "Stand back," she said softly. Her skin began to glow again, brighter this time, almost blinding. The power systems flickered, and the pod's engine hummed to life. But Ethan could see it was draining her. Her body trembled, light fading in pulses. "Zira, stop. You're burning your energy." She smiled weakly. "Then I will burn until you are safe." He grabbed her shoulders. "I can't let you do that." "You must," she whispered. "Our lives are shared now." The pod door slid open. Ethan hesitated, but Zira pushed him inside. "Go. I will follow." But before he could reach out, the floor beneath her cracked open. A blast of pressure sucked her backward into the smoke. "Zira!" Ethan screamed. He lunged forward, but the pod's autolock sealed him in. Through the small window he could see her falling, glowing faintly in the dark. Then the pod launched, throwing him into the stars. The stars outside blurred as tears filled his eyes. He pressed his hand against the window, voice trembling. "Zira, please." The pod systems beeped calmly, unaware of the heart that was breaking inside. Out there, beyond the fire and smoke, somewhere in the wreckage of the station, she was gone. Or maybe, just maybe, still alive. Ethan closed his eyes, whispering, "You said our lives were shared, so don't you dare leave me alone." When Ethan opened his eyes, everything was silent. The escape pod floated through empty space, surrounded by a field of broken metal and drifting debris. He could still see faint pieces of the destroyed station spinning slowly in the distance. The stars looked cold, too calm for what had just happened. He tried calling the pod's radio again. "Station control, do you copy? Zira, do you hear me?" Static answered him. Only the soft hum of the pod's systems remained. Ethan sat back in the small seat, his head in his hands. The image of Zira falling into the smoke played again and again in his mind. Her voice still echoed. Soft, calm, full of warmth. "Then I will burn until you are safe." He hadn't understood it before. But now, sitting there alone, he did. She meant it. She had given everything to keep him alive. He leaned his forehead against the glass window, watching the stars blur past as the pod drifted. "You were supposed to follow me," he whispered. "You promised." Hours passed like shadows. He didn't know how long he had been floating when the pod's sensors finally picked up a signal. Faint, but steady. A rescue ship. When they pulled him aboard, he was weak and exhausted, barely able to stand. Medics checked him, but all he could ask was, "Did you find her? The Velari cadet, Zira?" The rescue officer looked at him sadly. "We recovered several escape beacons, son, but none matched her frequency." Ethan's chest tightened. "So she's gone." The officer didn't answer. He only placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder before walking away. Days later, Ethan was back on Earth, recovering at the Galactic Academy's hospital wing. The human doctors praised him for surviving, but their words meant nothing. Every night he lay awake staring at the empty space beside him, cold, wide, and silent. He missed her voice. He missed her warmth. He even missed how she used to hum softly when she thought he was asleep. One night, as he lay there unable to rest, the room lights flickered. Then out of nowhere, the holographic console beside his bed came alive. A small blue symbol glowed, the same pattern that used to pulse on Zira's arm when she was calm. Ethan sat up straight. "Zira?" A faint voice came through the static. Weak, almost fading. "Ethan." His heart stopped. "Zira, you're alive." "Part of me, yes." Her image flickered into view. Transparent, soft. Her form made of light and data. She smiled faintly. "When the station collapsed, I used the last of my energy to send my essence through the pod's data link. My body could not survive. But my mind found you." Tears filled his eyes. You became part of the pod?" She nodded slowly. "Among my kind, the bond of shared rest connects our life currents. I told you, Ethan. When we share a bed, our energies intertwine. You carried a part of me within you the night we first slept side by side. That is why you still dream of me." Ethan pressed his palm against the glowing projection. "So, you're really here?" "In a way," she said softly. "I cannot touch or breathe anymore, but I can speak. I can still keep my vow." He smiled through tears. "You always keep your promises, don't you?" Her expression softened. "Only when they matter." The days that followed were strange. Ethan wasn't truly alone anymore. The holographic console glowed softly every night, her voice filling the silence. Sometimes she told him stories of Velari stars, of her people who believed that no soul truly died, if its light was remembered. And sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he could still feel her, warm and close as if she was lying beside him once more. He learned to live again. Slowly. The Academy gave him a medal for bravery, but he didn't care about medals. What mattered was that he had kept his promise too. To remember her, always. Months later, the Galactic Council honored the fallen from the station disaster. Ethan stood alone on the viewing deck as the names appeared on the screen. When Zira's name came up, he whispered softly, "You're not gone. You're just light now." The holographic console on his wrist flickered faintly. "And light never fades, Ethan," came her familiar whisper. "It just travels farther." He smiled through tears. "Then travel with me, wherever I go." "Always," she said, "until your stars become mine." That night, Ethan lay in his quarters, the stars shining beyond the glass. The bed beside him glowed softly in blue light, her light. It felt warm again like before. He turned slightly, whispering into the quiet room, "Good night, Zira." "Good night, my human." Her voice answered, calm and full of peace. "Rest well. Our dreams are still shared." As his eyes closed, the stars outside seemed to brighten, forming gentle waves of golden light across the sky, like a heartbeat from somewhere far away. And for the first time since the fire, Ethan slept without fear, because somewhere in the endless galaxy, a Valari soul still kept her promise, guarding his rest across light years and memory.